Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you?
You know, I'm fine. I have been really getting into my TV shows again.
Fantastic.
Um, the second season of Yellow Jackets came out recently, and so I'm almost through with it. I had to sign up for Showtime for they're doing like a bundle for like $5.99 a month for 3 months or something. So I signed up for that. So for 3 months I have Showtime. But I am loving it. So if you are on the fence about it, definitely go watch it. I love the first season too. One of the most innovative shows I've seen on TV in a while.
Nice.
Because I signed up for Showtime, I get Paramount Plus with that. Well, it's
Mm-hmm.
Showtime with Paramount Plus is the system, and you get Showtime with that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've been watching the new iCarly. I watched the first season today. And between those two shows, my heart is just so happy.
I love it.
And little insight, I've been scoping out some horror shows so I can figure out what our next season's gonna be for
Yeah.
Death and Aliens. So stay tuned for that. I'll tell you eventually on
When
the
you figure
air,
it out.
all of you, when I figure it out. So yeah, that's kind of how I am. I'm just kind of relaxing and chilling and getting back to watching some TV
Fantastic.
shows that I love. How are you?
I'm tired. This weekend was my American Cancer Society event. Everything went pretty well. But that weekend, if you listened to Thursday's Death and Aliens podcast, you know that I was outside in 90-degree weather all day on Thursday. And then Friday and Saturday, I was also outside all day for my relay events. And so I am just very, very tired. Um, Today has been an absolute shit show because of how tired I've been, but it'll be fantastic. I don't know how much money we raised yet. I gotta get the full days count, and it was just yesterday, so I don't have that yet. But yeah, so
Love
it is
that.
what, yeah. Um, so I was doing things for a good cause yesterday instead of watching stuff for the podcast, which I mean, I guess is valid. But since I then fell so far behind, Courtney, please cheer me up. Make me feel
That's
better
what I'm
about
here
the
to
fact that
do.
my life is a mess.
That's okay. Be crazy enough to know you can do anything you want in life.
I love that.
So, not gonna chill it out for you, but I will say you're doing great.
Yes, fantastic. You
Yes,
know what
I
else
love
is
it.
doing great? Sort of.
No, it's doing great.
Okay.
Stargate. I liked this episode quite a bit.
Did too, but for weird reasons. And
Mm.
actually, the most important thing about this episode, I can't talk to you
Well,
about.
mine is just very generic.
Okay,
So
well,
it's
because this
fine.
episode introduced a character that
They don't tell us anything about. Yeah, I'm
they don't tell
familiar.
us anything about, and
Yeah,
I have things I
can't
could
tell
tell
me
you
anything about it.
about that, but I can't tell you
Okay.
anything about that.
Well, then
Um,
disregard my last question on my notes.
okay. Um, so this is it's season 3, episode 20. It's called Maternal Instinct. It was rated 7.7 stars and came out on February 25th, 2000.
Wait, is
Yes.
that lower than last week?
No, it is higher than last week, but not by
What was last
much.
week?
7.5.
Okay. But still,
Yeah.
this was a really
um,
it
it
seemed a really
was,
important episode.
it had some really important information in it, but the overall, like, put together of the episode wasn't the best. Like we were saying before we started recording, I don't really know how to talk about the episode in a
Yeah,
plot way because it was kind of lacking in plot.
sure.
So that's
Sure, sure.
um the number one song was Thank God I Found You by Mariah Carey featuring Joe and 98 Degrees.
I don't think I even know that song. Like,
I
I know
don't.
all of the things you just said, but I don't know that song
Yeah.
right now.
The number one book is still John Grisham,
John
that we
Grisham.
talked about last week, and the number one movie was The Whole Nine Yards, starring Bruce Willis and Matthew Perry. I've heard of this movie a million times, but when I went to look it up today, I realized I have definitely never seen it.
I've also never seen it, but yeah.
I
Same.
also was very convinced when I started writing it that it was The Longest Yard. It is not.
No, very different. That one
Very different movie. Yeah, same.
Mm-hmm.
On this day, if you listened to Thursday's podcast, I said that there was some true crime stuff that was going to get dropped on this episode. But so on this day in history, on February 25th, 2000, Adnan Syed was sentenced to jail for the murder of his girlfriend.
And like a month ago was released.
Yes, I literally
23 years later.
23 years later was released. So yeah. I was freaking out when I started taking my notes, and then my mom was like, "What is that?" So I had to explain the entire history of Serial and Adnan Syed to my mom.
Yeah, if you need any background, go listen to the Serial.
Go listen to the podcast Serial. Mind blowing. Yes. So Adnan Syed was sentenced to prison on February 25th, 2000, and it was definitely sometime in February of 2023 that he was released from prison after wrongfully sitting in jail for 23 years.
Because of one stupid person's stupid comment that they made up. Stupidly. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine.
It's fine.
I'm gonna die mad about it, so it's okay.
Yeah, no, I literally was trying to explain it to my mom and just started crying about this whole man's life. I was like, he was 18. Yeah. And he was in prison for 23. I was like, stop it.
Yeah. Totally fair. Totally the correct response. So
the episode was directed, again, I told you there's some weird stuff happening with directors in the end of Stargate. This episode was directed by Peter F. Wost. He is, once again, known for his cinematography, and his only directing credits are Stargate. He does have more episodes. The other guy literally had only the one episode. He does have more episodes, and he also does direct in Atlantis as well. So he has directed for multiple Stargate. But has never directed anything other than Stargate.
Great.
Yeah. It was written by Robert C. Cooper and edited by Alan Lee. So that is that.
I will say this is, to go back to the director, like, I feel like a lot of things with like sci-fi shows, because they're so long running, do end up giving a lot of their like crew members opportunities that you might not get working on another show, because they're
for sure
a bit more like nuanced, they have more money behind them, so they have more like of an executive board to like clear, whereas stuff like Star Trek was probably a little less funded because it was sci-fi in the 90s, early 2000s, but it had such a long run that everyone was able to be involved, which is, it's really great for like sci-fi shows and stuff.
No, and I agree. I find the lack of transition to directing outside of Stargate to be the thing that is baffling to me about these men. Not that, like, you start in the camera department on a show and you work on it for 4 years and then you get to direct an episode. Great. Yeah. I'm all for that. I think cinematography and directing have more in common than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
The directing one episode of a show and then never directing anything ever again for the rest of your career is baffling to me.
Yes, 100%.
The guest star for this episode is the first guest star that we've really had that has a significant career after Stargate. And no, that's not true. Tony Amendola obviously had a lot, but
and Tom DeLuise, I mean, come on.
Tom DeLuise had a significant career before Stargate, though.
Yes, true.
So Terry Chen was our guest star. He played the monk. He is known for Almost Famous and Jessica Jones. He recently starred opposite Viggo Mortensen in a movie called Falling that released at the 2020 Sundance Film. And his most recent movie, where he starred opposite Greg Kinnear, called Sight, has just come out in the last couple months. He is really just starting to come into his own. He was in like 10 episodes of Big Little Lies, or no, Million Little Things, one of those shows that just came out that people talk about all the time that has the word little in it.
Sure.
He was in like his most recent credit was an episode of The Last of Us, which was like the biggest show this year.
So
But
far, the year's not over.
so far, that's true. It's only June. But
Mhm.
I was talking about how he only recently was coming into his own in Hollywood. And my mom said something about how, like, if somebody was starting in bit parts 23 years ago and they're only like recently getting more stints, they're kind of probably the perennial character actor. And I said, or they suffer from the massive underrepresentation of Asian Americans in film and television. And then
What? I'm shocked. I am so shocked to hear this.
And then I was reading my mom a list of all the characters that he has played in shows, and she goes, some of those are Chinese names, some of those are Korean names. I go, correct.
Mm-hmm.
He's Taiwanese and Chinese, so he should not be playing Korean characters. And I go, or like in the fact that in his one episode of DC's Legend of Tomorrow, he played Genghis Khan, because that's what happens when you're Asian in Hollywood. And
Welcome
will
to the entertainment world.
I will never, if there is anything that I am aggressive about misrepresentation, it is Asian Americans in entertainment. I get so fucking soapboxy about that, and I don't feel bad about it.
On Broadway.
We don't have time for that today.
We don't have time.
We are running a very tight ship today because I unfortunately have plans and I have fucked up my whole day. So we don't have time for how I actually feel about the misrepresentation of Asians in media. So we're going to just get into the episode. Well, that's fine. So we're going to get into the episode itself. It starts with an unauthorized visitor entering the gate, but they keep the iris open because there is a special code number 2, which is Braytak's code to enter.
Braytak's back! Yay!
And Braytak enters with another Jaffa screaming for help because the other Jaffa is bleeding internally and not doing so hot. Teal'c is like, what happened? And Braytak is like, Apophis attacked Chulak and tried to kill everyone.
Somebody's back in action. We're back at attacking Chulak. Great.
So then after the credits, we get to the room where Braytak is filling the rest of the team in on everything that is happening. And Jack says one of my favorite lines of all time. And he says, why can't somebody teach that guy how to die? Because they are pissed that Apophis has once again evaded death. Braytak tells us that he now controls the entire army of Sokar, and he destroyed all of Chulak rather than attempting to weed out which Jaffa were loyal and which ones were disloyal. He just got rid of everybody. And while they're discussing this, the phone rings, and we go down to the infirmary, and we find out that Moak, the Jaffa that was there, has died. He has not survived his injuries.
We saw him before, I think, right? His name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I believe we've met him before. He is one of the younger Jaffa who has just joined Braytak's resistance, basically. And Braytak is like, Moak was one of the bravest Jaffa I ever taught, and I want to one day be able to spread his ashes on Apophis's grave. And he
die.
Yeah, but he tells Teal'c that he'd never seen anything like this attack because it wasn't like they were just coming to kill; they were rooting through the whole planet. Yeah. And Teal'c goes, because they're looking for something. So Daniel and Teal'c fill Braytak in on our Heresis backstory and the fact that the only information they have from Amunat/Share is that they're on a planet called Keb, and Braytak tells them the legends that his father used to tell him about Keb and how it's the only place in the world the Goa'uld are afraid of, and all of these things about how they've never been there and nobody knows anything about it. And then Daniel tells Braytak the information he has, which is only that it's the place where Osiris was said to have hidden from Set. And Braytak's like, I know where that is. So they go and they look at their registry of planets, basically, And they realize that the planet that Braytek is looking for is the only planet that they know that was in the original Ancients registry, but not on the cartouche.
Yep.
So they have finally
Genius.
found Keb. But they also are afraid that Paphos might be able to make the Keb connection to what planet it is. And so they bring SG-2 as backup, and they're like, we're going balls to the wall because we don't know that we'll get there first.
Right.
And they get there and they find that they, in fact, did not get there first. And they follow these footprints of some Jaffa to where, and into the forest, and they're talking about they're interpreting the footsteps, and Braytok is like using all his Boy Scout skills, and it's really impressive. And
Very
then
impressive.
they get to the forest, and a crow like attacks Daniel in the face. And it turns out it's because there was a bunch of dead Jaffa bodies.
Yep.
And they're all burnt to like a fucking crisp, like looked
Yes.
like when you accidentally forget you have chocolate chip cookies in the oven. But with no damage anywhere around them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that makes sense.
No.
And Braytak then finds the priestess, who was there also, and she has been shot in the back. And they know, based on the fact that her hands were not like chained up, and the level of where she was fired at by their staffs, that she must have been holding the baby at the time that they got her.
So sad.
So she is dead. And then based on the crispiness of the Jaffa, they must have been killed by something after they killed her. But that still leaves the giant question mark of where is La Bebe?
Oh. Maybe.
They find Keb, which looks
so this
like,
shot, like looking out from the woods, made me think of when they found the City of Light. Like it was like they came out of the woods and then here's
light. And also it also looked like the same shot as when they found the medieval village too, in the castle.
Yeah.
It's basically the same shot but with a different temple, like
yeah.
CGI.
And when you get in, obviously it looks very different, but the outside was like, here's another shot. So
then they start to enter the courtyard, and I was pausing it to take notes, and I just go, "Ooh, Moongate!" And my mom goes, "What?" I go, "A moongate." She said, "What's a moongate?" I said, "You know the Chinese architectural circle and temples?" It's a moongate.
Oh, I did not know Moongate.
Yeah. So in Chinese temples, all of those circular doorways, they are called moon gates, and they are specifically built that way into temples to be portals to different planes.
That's like the mirrors, right?
Yeah. But also they're circular doorways that are portals to different planes of existence. So
that makes sense.
You know what the Stargate is, but not because. And my mom goes, "Oh, that makes sense."
Yeah, sure does.
Yeah. So I got really excited about the Moongate. I got really excited about a lot of things with Asian culture in this episode, but they get to the courtyard, and Daniel starts to like take his weapons off, and Braytek's like, "Yeah, we're on sacred ground. That like makes sense. We shouldn't walk up in a temple with our guns swinging in the air." So Jack, Daniel, and Braytek go into the temple, and a monk just appears out of fucking nowhere and is like, "Are you here to become one with nature?" basically. And Braytek's like, "Yeah, let's take off our shoes." And Jack is fucking confused the whole time.
But he's also like being a major tool. Like,
oh yeah, no, Jack was a douche in this episode.
Yeah.
But the monk continues to just speak to them in Proverbs, and Jack is not having a good time. And I had to pause and die laughing at this moment because I was like, sometimes my favorite thing to do watching Stargate and being as familiar with the film world as I am is I want to, for a moment, imagine what it was like on set for these different episodes. And I cannot imagine being Terry Chen and speaking all of these traditional Chinese proverbs with like in no sensical rhythm, just saying them as answers to legitimate questions and looking Richard Dean Anderson in the face to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I couldn't. I could not do it with a straight fucking face.
Yeah.
Daniel is like fascinated by the monk and starts going off about the beginnings of Buddhism. And then my mom was like, I get that they're talking about enlightenment, but that feels more like Confucianism. And I was like, listen, oh, sorry. I was like, listen, they're using correct Chinese proverbs and they have a Chinese Canadian actor playing the monk. I'm just going to give them credit on that much because it is 2000 and we're still not sure how to do that then.
We're still not sure how to do that now. It's fine. Again, we're not.
Yeah. This episode would probably be 2.5 hours if I did not have a strict time limit of when I need to stop recording.
For sure, for sure.
It's fine. So Teal just like has a bad feeling about everything. And Jack and Sam just like don't know what to do with Daniel because they're like, he's just gonna whatever. It's fucking Daniel.
But
Here we
like,
go.
he's the one who is the historian essentially for one of his multiple roles, and like he really is trying to be respectful. Like, listen to him. He's the one that knows what's going on here. Like,
yeah, no,
give it a rest.
Yeah, I mean, we never really take Daniel seriously, and sometimes it's deserved. I don't know if it is today.
We should take him seriously today. I thought he did a great job.
The monk, so Daniel and Braytok take off their shoes and sit in the little 8-pointed star on the ground to meditate with the monk. And the monk tells Braytok that he is not going to be able to continue his journey to enlightenment at this time because he must remove his primta, and unless he is ready to die to reach enlightenment, he can't. And Braytok is like, no, that makes sense, and I'm not ready to die yet. I want this. But I've also, this moment and this choice has made me realize that I actually am happy to be alive and still be fighting. So I'm going to go do that.
And the fact that like Braytok and Daniel are both on like the same page, I'm like, okay, look, the two smart people that understand what's happening in the world culturally, please just follow their instructions.
And then he's like, Daniel, you, on the other hand, like you got some baggage you're going to have to overcome, but like you're not shut off from enlightenment. And so Daniel's finally alone with the monk and he's still kind of talking in proverbs, but then he starts asking Daniel actual questions, and he's like finding out why Daniel wants the baby and like what his conversation is and everything. And Daniel says that like he made a promise to keep the baby safe. And then the monk responds in what is my favorite thing I have ever heard. He says, if you immediately know that the candle is fire, then the meal has already been cooked.
Yes. I was like, that's so like wise.
I Googled it, and immediately the first thing that came up was a Stargate Reddit page. So I'm glad I Googled it. But the post on the Stargate Reddit page linked back to the traditional original Chinese proverb that it is based on, like the story that it's based on. And the story that it's based on is a man came home from work and wanted to cook himself dinner. And so he had like a lantern that he was using in his house to try to find the matches to light the stove. And he looked everywhere and looked everywhere and looked everywhere and couldn't find his matches, and ended up starving because he couldn't light the stove to cook himself food. when he was
But he
using
had
a
the
lantern. Yes. And so then I was like looking at it, and one of the posts on the Reddit page said the modern version of this is calling someone to find out where your phone is.
Jesus Christ.
And I was like, I hate that that is so true, but the reference, I hate that that's where we are as a society. But that's exactly what it is. It's being so oblivious to what you have that you don't know you have the tools to complete what you already have.
Yeah.
Which, in this case, is because Daniel made a promise to keep the baby safe, and the baby is in the safest place it will ever be.
Yep.
So,
which like we should have known from the beginning, because they're like, everyone, like the Jaffa's scared, the Goa'uld are scared to like be here, and like those are the people that the baby's in danger from.
Right.
As of yet that we know.
But the thing is, that isn't who the baby was in danger from. Like, yes, it is, but also who else was the baby in danger from? The baby was in danger from Stargate because they wanted him as a tool to defeat the Goa'uld instead of as a child.
Right.
And Daniel had to get there.
Just took a minute, but he got there. He did it.
Yeah. So, in his process of getting there, his training, the monk is getting Daniel to like light a candle with his mind, and he can't do it. I said that he also can't let go of his hatred for the Goa'uld, which clouds his ability to take care of a child. And the monk reminds him that he can't do anything on his own; he just has to trust.
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful. Again, religious commentary in a show that's not religious.
Yep. Yep. Every day. Every day.
Philippians 4:13. But once it becomes nighttime, Jack is like, all right, time is up. I have waited too long. I don't know what this man is doing inside this temple. And so he goes in to see Daniel, and Daniel is explaining Mother Nature and higher planes of existence. And this may be one of the most important things that Daniel has ever said in the show, with no context of the fact that this is one of the most important things to the plot of the show that Daniel has ever said. It
seemed, I mean, this is Mother Nature. I mean,
yeah.
This is feels pretty important.
This episode makes me so angry to do on the podcast, because everything I want to say about it, I can't say. I, like, to the point where I'm going to have to make sure that there are certain
reference back when it's time.
No, yes, but I'm going to have to make sure when we do our season wrap up to give Doug very strict warnings to not use a specific word to talk about this episode. Like, that's how much I need to be like, I'm gonna be like, you know what I mean? It's just,
I love that.
Yeah.
That brings me so much joy.
So Daniel is like trying to show this like enlightenment to Jack, and he like lights a candle with his mind, and Jack's like, okay, cool, fucking party trick, my dude. I don't know. So then he steals Jack's gun and points it at him, and then he's like, how did you he's like, oh, why did the monk do that? He's like, the monk didn't do it, I did it.
And I was like, okay, this is really fast for Daniel to get really good at this. Like, Daniel has no magical talent as of yet, and he was just able to like do all of this stuff. Like, you train for years as a monk to be able to like have your like thoughts clear and all of this stuff, like enlightenment and everything, and he did it in like 10 seconds. It's answered, I know, but
I was gonna say,
I was very skeptical at this moment, and I was like,
very
this is really out of place.
Valid feeling. My reaction to this is colored by spoilers, so I can't actually tell you. Again, this is the hardest. This is the first time I've ever had a very actual difficult time talking about the episode with you. Like, usually I'm pretty good. Usually I'm pretty good at being like, because a lot of the episodes have only been connected to the season they're in, and so like I can not. This episode, I genuinely don't know how to talk about.
Great. Well, I'll give you lots of theories and thoughts at the end. So
Perfect. I cannot wait. Like, I'm so excited. Um, so some Jaffa arrive and Jack gets real antsy and Daniel's like, I can't leave until Mother Nature believes I can take the care of the baby myself. Which is the fucking weirdest thing I've ever heard someone say out loud. And then the Goa'uld mothership has landed, so there's no more time for fucking around.
I would
And everyone,
assume you had just done ayahuasca if you came and told me this. Like, that is the only A plus B equals C that lines up for
yeah,
that
no,
sentence.
yeah, no, absolutely. And then um, everyone leaves, and a light just ascends on Daniel. Um, and it's kind of weird looking. But then he follows the light through a wall to the baby, you know,
Because
because
why not?
yeah, because casually he could have just walked through that wall the whole time, I guess. Um, and outside, um, Jack goes to find Daniel, who has just disappeared through this wall, and he can't find him. So he's like, "We're fucked. When this is over, if we survive, I will murder Daniel."
Yep.
But he sends SG-2 to go back to base and get reinforcements because they are absolutely surrounded by the entire Goa'uld army. Um,
Yeah.
so Daniel like has some beautiful moment with the child and the weird light spirit lady, Mother Nature. And then
Mm-hmm.
he goes to like take the child with him and he gets all the way to the wall and then he just like suddenly fucking figures it out and is like, oh, I get it. The child is safe with you and not with me because it will always be at risk and you have the ability to hide the child and blah blah blah. And my promise was
Yeah.
not
This
to
felt
keep.
really like necessary for Daniel because like one,
Oh,
he had to learn it on his own.
yeah,
Um, which obviously, but also it was like kind of the last letting go of Shari for him because knowing that he's not the one who's going to move forward to protect this child, that was kind
right.
of his last link. And I think that's why he held on so much because he's like, I made this promise, I have to do this. But it's like,
Well, and he realized that by not keeping the baby himself, he is keeping his promise, and it's the best way he can keep his promise to
mm-hmm.
Shari. And I think one of the things that the monk asks him that's so important is he's like, oh, so it's your wife's baby, but it's not your child. And he
Yep.
was like, no, it's not. And Daniel has to like accept that the child is not his child just because Shari birthed the child, because really Shari birthed the child physically, but mentally it was never really her child
Dominance. Yeah.
either. And which is again, the show makes me say weird sentences out loud. Um, and also that for as much as he loves Shari, he doesn't know the baby and he doesn't have
Right.
they're still trying to figure out how to keep Earth as a whole safe from the Goa'uld. How are they going to keep the most fragile being on the planet or in the galaxy safe from the Goa'uld?
Not only the
So,
most fragile being, but also the most like dangerous tool, like weapon.
yeah.
Like,
And he taking it to Earth, the baby's not is not necessarily safe from the Goa'uld, but also more
mm-hmm.
than that, the baby's not safe from the
From Earth.
military.
Yeah.
Right. So, the Jaffa arrive and start to attack. And just as they like start to attack, they kill the monk, which I was devastated by.
Yeah.
And
Real
then
shocker there for me.
Daniel runs out, still looking like a barefoot hippie, and tells all of SG to put their weapons down. And they're like, that's the worst idea you've ever had. And he's like, no, I know it feels like it right now, but I need you to drop your
But you
weapons.
gotta do this.
If you have ever trusted me ever, you need to do
Mm-hmm.
this. So they do. And then a lightning cloud or a weird, like a glowing light spirit, saves the four of them from getting shot. And then a lightning cloud just burns and chars every single Goa'uld, including the gliders.
Yep.
Just death.
Just like that.
Um,
Yep.
so the Mother Nature spirit kills all of them and then comes to say goodbye to Daniel, like brings the baby and says goodbye and explains that they have to leave Keb because it's the only way for the child to be safe. And of course, all of this conversation between her and Daniel is only one-sided. She never speaks. It's very, very odd. And then the light starts like travels away. Also, a light spirit left the monk's body to travel away also. So the monk physically may be dead, but there was
The spirit's still there.
the spirit is still there because, ascension and into higher planes of being or whatever.
But we don't
and
talk
then
about religion here.
no, never. And then so as the like light spirit is traveling, the major who's like running SG-2 is like, Colonel O'Neill, I don't know what to do. He's like the gate just opened. He's like, everyone drop your weapon until the light has passed and the gates are gone. Like just so they do. And so you have this picture of all of these like soldiers with their weapons on the ground, just looking up at the light as it goes past them and through the Stargate.
I really liked that scene.
Yeah. And then they start to leave and Jack has to remind Daniel to put his ears on. And then the episode is over.
It felt like a very emotional scene when the Mother Nature left. Like, I really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, it was a beautiful episode. And like I said, it was weird to talk about because like it didn't have like a then this happened and then this happened. It was like a lot of like emotional conversation and lighting and silence and feelings and Chinese proverbs that did not need to be repeated, but like it was.
But that feels like the fit for this episode too.
Yeah,
like
it was so important too for the future of the show, and I can't talk about it. I also this is a weird thing that is so completely just my own brain. I love the look of the Stargates that aren't separated from the ground. So like when the actual wormhole is like, so there like there's a cutoff, so it's like flat and it's not up on the stairs and like a full circle. There's just like an actual like cave entrance. I just love the look of that.
I like that too.
It's totally unrelated to the plot of this episode, but
well, I also have a comment on not related to this episode, and it's not really their fault. It's just a way of life. I really, 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 really hate that fake baby doll sound that they use in everything. And it's used so often. I understand why. I get it. I hate it. Every time it's used in anything ever, I'm annoyed about it.
At least they didn't use a fake baby doll for real, though, because there are some messed up looking fake babies on TV, and at least this one, for all of the only scenes that it was in where it was necessary to tell that it was alive, it was alive. Like so there's that.
Ugh. I just rather you not have a baby sound, but it's fine. That's not really affecting anything at all, and it is in everything.
What you said, you had lots of questions and thoughts and theories, so please lay it on me.
Can you tell me what alien race she is?
No.
Okay, cool. So I am guessing that being Mother Nature, because they said that she's more like it's maternal instinct, so motherly. And I don't know that they ever actually called her Mother Nature, but they said, what was it, Desorna or something, which was nature.
It was and it was they basically said
nature. So
yes, it was Mother Nature, and Daniel said that was what it was.
Okay, I couldn't remember if they actually said it out loud or if I just like decided that.
They did say it out loud,
the whole time. Great. So being Mother Nature, I feel like she's kind of like the mother of all the system lords. And so I don't know if that's a thing, if that's how that works. I understand like that's not how Greek mythology works. Okay. But I'm wondering if like Stargate's going to kind of go in that direction. Because that'd be really interesting that and that's why they're scared of her, because she's the mother of all beings, not just this Mother Nature figure. Um, I'm very interested to know where she's gonna go now that Keb doesn't exist anymore. I'm assuming it's gonna be another place that people don't have Stargate coordinates to. So it's gonna be another trek, of course. I think she's gonna be, I mean, you've kind of confirmed that she's kind of long running, but the way that was set up, I feel like she's gonna be kind of like really long running. Especially because she's protecting this child that's kind of like the end all be all of Stargate. So I feel like that's gonna be kind of the long game, but also I don't feel like I'm gonna be as annoyed about it as I was with like Sharae, who took ages to come back and
Like the
forth.
fact if we don't get an answer soon, it's not going to bother you as much as if when we would go like 8 episodes without Shari stuff. Is that
Right.
what you're
Like
saying?
if I only see her like once a season for the next so many seasons, I feel like I'm okay with that because I feel like it's a
Okay.
long game type thing, and I feel like she's gonna stay in the plot and because this baby has to
Yeah.
stay in the plot, but that there's so many other things that also have to be handled that it's okay with me if that's like
Right.
an ongoing mission and then they just happen to find this new place she's in. Because you have to, I mean, you gotta look again. There's no like coordinates now, so we have a
Yeah.
reason to not be like constantly looking for her because none of the coordinates that are listed would be the one she's gonna go to. So you can't even like search planets you have already. So I feel like I'm going to be more okay with that than I have been with some of the other long running plot lines in the past.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think that is my kind of summation of how I felt. I liked this episode. Um, I'm very interested to hear about this child. Feels like it really ties to American Horror Story with that child being very meaningful, but in the opposite
Right.
direction.
Right. We're
Devil
just like
child versus
only
a
talk.
child savior. So yeah. So those are kind of some of my thoughts. And I'm excited to know more, but I'm also not disappointed if I don't know more as an
Okay.
immediate reaction. Yeah.
I like that a lot. Who, in that case, what's your MVP? Or no, who do you want to punch? We do punching first.
Yeah. Jack. He was such a tool
Fair.
this episode.
He was. He was absolutely a tool this episode.
Like, and like I get that like normally don't listen to Daniel. I get the instinct, but he was right this whole time. Like, I mean, he had to like go through this whole process and it wouldn't necessarily take this long, but he did have to find his own self in the
Yeah.
middle of it. But like also he was right every time. And so
Yeah.
eventually Jack did just kind of give in, which was good, but he was a tool first, so I want to punch him.
It's totally fair. I am going to choose Apophis, even though he wasn't there, because fucking
Fair. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, but he kind of was. He attacked
I mean,
Sherlock in the very beginning.
yeah, and he
We just
killed
didn't see
Moa.
him. Yeah.
And also, if he attacked
He
all
was
of
there.
Chulak, what does that mean for Tilt's family? Fuck off. So,
Yeah, that's what I thought this was gonna go this episode. So kind of glad it didn't because I thought it was
yeah,
gonna start with Braytech coming back with Milwaukee and then all of To's family being dead, which is still I guess possible, but hopefully that's not the case since it didn't come up this episode.
right. Who is your MVP?
Daniel, because while he had some like growing to do, he did it. He grew in himself. He became self-aware, and he did exactly what he needed to do to protect everyone and made the best choices for everyone involved.
My MVP is Mother Nature.
Also, very fair. She would have been my second.
Yeah, I cannot elaborate without spoiling myself. So, but
I mean, I also would have picked her as an MVP
yeah,
if I was not picking Daniel. So just based off the knowledge I have.
fantastic. And for anyone who is watching this or listening to this who is not a Stargate noob, you will understand the sheer pain that is recording this episode for me right now. It's like
And
that
no one
big.
tell me what's happening.
No.
No
Yes.
spoilers.
If you have any comments and you would like to share them, you can always email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com or follow us on all the social media at deathandaliens. But if you have comments about this episode specifically, Please, for the love of God, do not send them to the Death and Aliens Instagram
I will
or
cry
anything. Send them
and quit
to
the
me
podcast.
personally, privately, at EMKAY_superstar.
And if it's not related to any of these things, but you want to talk to me, please feel free to reach out at ZCloud13.
And with that, this is quite possibly the shortest episode of Death and Aliens ever of all time.
We still made about 45 minutes.
We started at 10 after. Oh yeah, so that's about 45 minutes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the worst, but it's not long.
Do you have a teaser for us?
I do have a teaser for you. We are at the penultimate episode of the season, next episode. And with that, it's a weird episode, I'm not even gonna lie to you. But we get some very strange character backstories for someone you would not expect to need a strange character backstory for.
Okay. I hope it's Braytech.
I'm a little I'm not saying anything else because then it won't be a teaser.
That's okay. It's true. That's true. I'm just making my guess. Throwing my hat in the ring.
I looked at the episode and I go, I don't even know how to tease this. It's weird.
It happens.
Well,
all right.
I guess with that, we will see you guys. Also, wait, is today Father's Day? Happy Father's Day? Question mark?
It's the 18th. Is that Father's Day?
That's Father's Day. Yes. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
We always listen. We always forget.
Happy Father's Day to George.
Yes. Happy Father's Day, George. Father. We always forget holidays because we record so far before we actually post them. Then we're like, oh wait, shit, what day did that come from?
I also put the wrong date on mine. So I put that it was the 11th, and I was like, no, we talked about that already.
We did, for sure. So. Yes. All right, well, happy Father's Day, happy Stargate. We will talk to you guys on Thursday.
Happy Stargate, yeah. Bye.
I don't know. Bye.